You spend all month trading your time and energy for a paycheck, only to open it up and see that a massive chunk has already vanished. Federal tax, state tax, Medicare. Before you even touch your money, the government takes its cut. You take what's left and deposit it at your local bank. There is a certain comfort in that routine. You imagine those dollars sitting quietly behind a massive steel vault, guarded and secure, waiting for you to return. In reality, that money is already gone. Banks operate on a system called fractional reserve banking. They operate as financial matchmakers. If you deposit $1,000, the bank takes $900 of it and immediately loans it out to someone else, keeping only a tiny fraction in reserve. That borrower takes your cash and spends it out in the real economy, maybe buying a jet ski or funding a new business. Your deposit is actively moving through the world, facilitating trade. And the currency itself? A dollar bill has no more physical worth than a piece of paper or a stick. It functions entirely because millions of people share a collective belief that it holds value. It is a social agreement. Because money is a moving network rather than a static physical object, you are a participant in a massive financial machine, whether you realize it or not. If you leave your capital idle, the system will gladly put it to work for its own benefit. This moving system comes with built-in penalties for passive participants. The most persistent is inflation. When there is an excess of cash in the economy and everyone tries to buy the same limited supply of goods, prices naturally rise, slowly eroding the value of your cash. This graph displays the mathematical reality of inflation. The physical face value of a $5 bill stays entirely flat, but the actual purchasing power, what that bill can buy at the grocery store, declines steeply over a decade. When the cost of living climbs faster than wages, people bridge that gap by borrowing. The moment you borrow for daily expenses, you expose yourself to the heavy cost of interest. Lenders need to know if you will actually pay them back. Your credit score is purely a 3-digit mathematical algorithm lenders use to grade your history of paying debts. It exists solely as their trust metric. If you have a low trust metric, banks see you as a risk. They compensate by charging you punishing interest rates. Miss a few payments, and compound interest begins multiplying your debt. Soon, a $12 lunch turns into a $50 liability. Inflation and high-interest debt act in tandem. They are the primary traps of the financial system, passively siphoning wealth away from anyone who isn't actively managing their position. When inflation spikes too high, the government intervenes. Their main defense mechanism is raising the baseline interest rate, which makes all borrowing more expensive. People stop spending, businesses stop expanding, and the entire economy cools off. The downstream effects of that cooling are immediate and harsh. Corporate costs are slashed, jobs disappear, and the economy enters a recession. This is the boom, peak, and bust cycle in action. The party stops, reality hits, and massive amounts of capital are wiped out across the markets. These economic resets expose the extreme vulnerability of relying completely on trading your time for a single paycheck. To survive these downturns, you have to transition to the other side of the wealth equation. The foundation of wealth generation requires decoupling your income from your hours. You achieve this by creating or providing outsized value to society. Steve Jobs built immense wealth because he created a tool with massive functional utility. Millions of people willingly traded their money for the value that his technology provided to their daily lives. Value doesn't even have to be functional. A luxury handbag holds the exact same utility as a basic tote from Target, yet consumers will pay a massive multiple of the price because the perceived status value is so high. Once that created value is converted into cash, it must immediately be moved into investments. Equities, bonds, and real estate act as a financial shield, protecting your capital from the persistent erosion of inflation. Investing is the precise moment your money becomes a dedicated employee working relentlessly on your behalf. Which brings us back to interest. The exact same mechanism that acts as a crushing trap for borrowers becomes the ultimate engine for wealth when you are the one collecting it. This chart illustrates the math of compound growth. When your interest starts earning its own interest, your capital begins duplicating itself. The initial growth is slow and flat, but eventually it curves sharply upward into massive exponential gains. The defining factor behind this curve is strictly decades of continuous time. The most explosive growth happens in the final years of the sequence. Ordinary people with modest paychecks retire with seven-figure portfolios by understanding these rules and using the system exactly as it was designed to be used. The modern financial structure is a strict dichotomy. It is either your worst enemy or your greatest asset. The only difference is whether you choose to be the person paying the interest or the person collecting it.